Okay, let's dive into the core of what's happening globally, because there's always more beneath the surface than what the mainstream outlets would have you believe. I used to work inside a big, well-known media outlet, saw how stories were twisted to fit a certain narrative, and I walked away. Now I'm independent, I speak freely, and I tell you what really matters. If you appreciate this kind of unfiltered analysis, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a sponsor. Your support helps keep this platform truly independent. We've got some significant developments that absolutely demand our attention, and once again, Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission, is right at the center of the storm. The number of people dissatisfied with her leadership is growing rapidly, and there's just no way around it. That's what officials, lobbyists, European community policy experts, and even journalists are all saying. What's truly remarkable is that this is even being reported in Politico, an outlet often seen as a favorite of the European Commission itself. Von der Leyen is facing serious criticism for a lack of transparency, for providing information that's convoluted, contradictory, or outright misleading. It's all out there in the open now, for everyone to see. I value your time, so I won't go through every single detail. But among other things, a new controversy has erupted in the European Parliament surrounding Ursula von der Leyen and an older agreement she had with Pfizer, one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies. Some European deputies, it seems, are simply not willing to let this matter be swept under the rug. So, several political groups actually demanded the creation of a special investigative committee. But, as was entirely predictable, the Parliament's leadership rejected that request. Formally, it looked like this. To establish such a committee, a minimum of 180 votes were needed, and they had more than that, 182 votes to be precise. Yet, despite meeting the threshold, the proposal was intentionally excluded from the agenda, so no vote ever took place. Now, many are openly speaking about a deliberate effort to derail the investigation. And keep in mind, later this month, as you know, there will be a vote of no confidence. This vote, however, won't be about the Pfizer deal. It will focus on the European Community's trade policy, including the agreement with the South American bloc, Mercosur. Meanwhile, the left-wing parties are intensely criticizing the European Union's relationship with Israel, or rather, the European Commission's stance. So the question of whether she'll manage to hold on to her position as head of the European Commission remains wide open. We're watching this situation very carefully, because it's far from settled. Now, one of the most talked about events today is the European Union Summit in Denmark. The main topic of this informal gathering of EU leaders in Copenhagen is the maximum optimization of self-defense. Until Thursday, the leaders of Greater Europe will be discussing in the Danish capital how to enhance regional security and accelerate the rearmament of European armies. There's also the question of utilizing frozen Russian assets and the next package of restrictions. Given the high stakes, Copenhagen has prohibited all drone flights during the European gathering and has received assistance in securing the summit from Germany, France, Sweden, and Norway. As previously reported, Denmark has seen unidentified drones on multiple occasions recently, including over airports and military bases, so they took action and closed their airspace to drones. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen announced that this is likely just the beginning. She wants all Europeans to grasp what's truly at stake and what's actually happening when drones appear or when cyber attacks occur. In her view, the goal behind these actions is to divide Europe, as the Danish Prime Minister explained to everyone. And now, shifting our gaze to Germany, Chancellor Friedrich Merz and his government have unveiled a massive plan for the country's modernization. The Chancellor's cabinet has approved 80 specific measures designed to elevate the nation to the top and save approximately 16 billion euros by cutting down on bureaucracy. The main goal, as reported, is to make the state faster, digital, and efficient, a key emphasis. Among the critical steps are accelerating construction, reducing its cost, and simplifying the recognition of foreign diplomas, especially in medicine. They're also streamlining residency permits using artificial intelligence and reducing the federal civil service by 8%. Like this video, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. As Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil announced, we want to make it easier for people to build a home or start a business. Essentially, the government has promised to slash bureaucratic costs by a quarter and implement these reforms within a compressed time frame. So we're watching this unfold. The intrigue is immense. And German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, for his part, explicitly underscored, "Our goal is to restore Germany's competitiveness and bring it back to the forefront." The intrigue is, I repeat, truly massive. Also in Germany, The Oktoberfest festival in Munich has now officially opened. Following a report of a potential threat to visitors, City Mayor Dieter Reiter announced to everyone that entry to Oktoberfest was once again permitted. The police informed him that, from their perspective, there were no obstacles to the continuation of the celebration, as the mayor of Munich personally stated, "For those who aren't aware, I'll fill you in." This morning, the festival had to be emergency closed after police discovered a threatening letter from left-wing radicals. Thousands of guests were sent home, and the entire area was cordoned off. Hundreds of security personnel and 25 specially trained dogs worked on site all day, conducting a thorough inspection of the pavilions and surrounding areas. It wasn't until the evening that specialists confirmed no dangerous objects were found. Oktoberfest, for those who don't know, will run until October 5th. Authorities promised that security measures at the festival will remain elevated. Now, in Romania, as expected, President Nicu Jordan has advocated for the regulation of social media for control over social networks. Naturally, he didn't say that people can still write or voice their opinions, which is precisely what many find concerning and frightening. But the Romanian president announced that he doesn't envision a world without social media, yet regulation is necessary, control is essential, so that every account is tied to a physical or legal person, allowing them to know who's writing, who's speaking, and so on. He particularly disliked TikTok during the election campaign because it apparently lacked filters for comments people were leaving. People were writing whatever they wanted, and that didn't sit well. Now, regarding new reports of industrial actions, we have updates. In Greece, trains and ferries have suspended operations due to a dispute. The country's largest trade unions organized the action. People are protesting against a government plan to increase the working day to 13 hours. You heard that right. The bill would allow employers to extend the workday to 13 hours. The Greek Minister of Labour claims this would be voluntary. The rule is expected to be adopted this month. But people have firmly said no to a 13-hour workday. Working hours are not a commodity, they are their lives, and those lives do not belong to employers. Unions fear that what's presented as voluntary will quickly become compulsory, as employers won't be overly concerned about their employees or their time. And it's hard to argue with that. Naturally, they won't be. Especially if such a measure passes in Greece, other countries might then say, let the employer decide how long an employee needs to work. For example, let them work 13 hours if necessary, and such a necessity seems to arise every single day. Now, regarding new reports directly from the United States of America, the American Senate failed to pass either of two bills concerning federal spending, leading to a partial shutdown of U.S. government agencies. This so-called shutdown occurred because Republicans and Democrats in Congress couldn't agree on a list of items and expenditures, including in healthcare. Now, Republicans are accusing Democrats of deliberately provoking the shutdown for political ends. They orchestrated it. They weren't thinking about ordinary Americans. J.D. Vance has already declared that far-left Democrats, as they're called in the Senate, triggered the government closure by demanding hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars for healthcare benefits for undocumented immigrants. And House Speaker Mike Johnson has stated that he will not negotiate with Democrats until the government is reopened. There's nothing to negotiate here, Johnson emphasized. There's nothing to even talk about with these people. That's the clear message he sent. In turn, Donald Trump stated that the shutdown could bring a lot of good to the United States and, in his characteristic style, heavily criticized Democrats and their agendas and how they have, in his view, harmed the country. Everything came under fire. What was happening, and you know what was happening, Democrats have nothing to boast about, so there's no point repeating it 100 times. So these are the informational highlights for today, for right now, that speak volumes about the current state of affairs. We've covered the growing criticism of Ursula von der Leyen and the questions surrounding her leadership, the critical EU summit in Denmark focusing on regional defense and the use of frozen Russian assets, Germany's ambitious modernization plans, and the temporary closure of Oktoberfest due to a threat, Romania's move to regulate social media, the significant strikes in Greece protesting an extended workday, and the US government shutdown fueled by political disagreements. These are complex issues, all intertwining to shape our world. Please share your thoughts on everything that's unfolding and what I've discussed. Your perspective truly matters. And remember, there's always more to share with you, so stay tuned. Until next time, I wish you peace and all the best.